Hello there, X-Men fans. Toward the Max Extreme here.
And Ghost Hunter Dave.
And we are IMPERIUS REX.
None other.
That's right. Dave, we're back here at the Summer Retreat, Studio B.
That's right. Just baking under all these lights.
The only reason we call it Summer Retreat because there's a billion fucking degrees in here.
Oh, man.
There's a reason to record at your house more often.
That's right. Rather than a nice, cool basement, we're
just hotboxing ourselves in this room.
And we can't even open the windows because
it's too loud.
It's
there's
too
some
loud.
dickhole mowing his yard next
There's
door.
also no air circulation.
But here we go. Why not be miserable while talking about a miserable movie? Hey Google, what's the Rotten Tomatoes score of Dark Phoenix?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help with that.
Fucking idiot. Dark Phoenix dropped in our laps this last week, Dave.
With a wet thump.
A wet, sloppy thump. It's currently sitting at 22%.
Ouch.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the lowest rated X-Men film to date.
That's ridiculous, because it is not the worst.
Granted, I think most of it is just critics' views, and the audience score I have not seen yet. But I do not believe that this is the worst X-Men film.
No. I would put it in the brackets of the worst.
Of the bottom tier bracket?
Yeah. If you're going to tier this out into 3 tiers.
Yes.
Good, meh,
middling,
bad. Yeah.
Yes.
It would be probably around the top of the bad, in my opinion. Maybe the middle of the bad.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
It's pretty bad.
Yes.
But there's worse.
There were things that they did in this movie that I actually appreciated. Now, this was a Phoenix Redux. They're trying this again.
Yep.
But they strayed a little bit closer to the source material this time. The Phoenix actually is a spacely creature.
That's right.
It's not just
very
something
spacious
that is looming inside of Jean Grey.
Right.
They actually do things with Professor Xavier that I really enjoyed in this.
Yep.
Which they dabble in the comic books. Is he maybe a dick? Is he okay? Who knows? He's like that in this.
He doesn't get Professor X'd.
No, he doesn't.
Taken out of the game early on.
Nope. There's other actors in this, such as Fassbender, McAvoy, and Sophie Turner, that I think do admirable jobs at their job.
Yep.
They made me believe that they are the characters they are, and I enjoyed them.
Fassbender has been just a blessing in these movies.
Yes.
McAvoy's good too, but
yes.
I think Fassbender Magneto is what we're all going to look back in this last chunk of X-Men movies and be like, well, at least we got that.
You did it, didn't you? But then with those things that I did appreciate...
Ooh, we're going right into it now.
There were some things that I also thought fell a little flat. I liked the beginning of this, but then right as... she gets the Phoenix Force fairly quickly in this.
Well, I have to compress, 50 issues worth of her getting the power, and then finally straying to Dark Phoenix.
Yes.
In 2 hours.
Yes.
Less than that, with credits.
Yes.
You know?
Hour 54.
Yes.
I looked it up. On the way to the theater. I'm like, how long is this movie?
God.
Son of a bitch. All right.
And like usual, you're coming hot off.
Of course.
Emphasis on the hot.
Yes.
Literally leaving the theater.
I have a dabbing towel.
Nice.
Are you kidding me?
Dab away.
Thank you. Don't put this in.
All right, I'm putting it in.
Cut it out. Here we go. No. Cut this out. Now, which one do you like better? Do you like X-Men 3 or this better?
Shit, man.
It's a hard...
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know anymore.
Me neither.
I remember, full disclosure, I'm an X-Men fan. I grew up on the cartoon, and I enjoy the comics, I guess, from what I read of them. And I really liked the first 2 X-Men movies, and then X3 just, was such a brick wall of momentum there, where you're like, oh man, they wrecked it.
Yeah.
That might have been my first exposure to a new director coming onto a franchise and wrecking everything that the previous, frontrunner had laid down.
Yeah.
So I was bummed on that. And then we got a 1-2 punch of Origins Wolverine coming out.
Yes.
And that soured everyone on X-Men. And then it became a bad franchise.
Yes.
And then, after enough time passed, X-Men First Class came out. And
vinegar it.
It totally did.
Put vinegar in it.
It did. And then we got Days of Future Past.
Yep.
Which was pretty darn good.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had the Wolverine right around then, which was like, okay, yeah, these are getting good again.
Yeah.
And then Apocalypse kind of killed it again.
Yeah. It took everything that they built and really took a hot fart on everything else.
Yeah.
And it did it like that because you can always go back to what it was before, and you did it in one.
Exactly. And it's always the third movie in whatever trilogy they're building.
Oy, oy, oy.
With the exception of Logan.
Yes.
Because then that came out off this, and you're like, oh man, best X-Men movie yet.
Yes.
And it seemed like a great ending.
Yep.
Yep. He tilts across, we're done.
My God,
we're
tears.
We're all done. Works both ways.
Yes.
And we're not counting the Deadpool movies. Those are fine too.
Yeah, they're off by themselves.
Yep. But then there's one more. Fox has one more in them.
Yeah.
And we get Dark Phoenix, which is like the official cap-off to this new... I guess it's a quadrilogy.
Yep, maybe.
I don't know.
The whole
if I'm gonna
timeline
keep
makes
any of
no
this.
sense.
Yes.
Just talking about it in this heat is just confusing because they're all kind of canon because sometimes they cancel each other out.
They totally do. Like, Magneto should be 60 in this movie.
Yeah, he's maybe 40 in this, but he's a Holocaust survivor. Takes place in 1992.
And I do like that they decided to do them, like, by decade, but it's like, you gotta keep up with that.
Yeah.
You gotta age those actors.
So Dark Phoenix, I think, I want to say it started strong.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for that 22% on Rotten Tomatoes to kick in.
Yeah, me too.
And it started off, I'm like, okay, they're really doing something different here.
Yep.
I kind of like this. They jettison into space. I'm like, okay, X-Men do space stuff all the time.
Never in the movies.
No, but they're doing it here.
Yep.
And they kind of jump right into an otherworldly force that gets inhabited into Jean Grey.
Typical Fox, otherworldly force. Big gas cloud.
Big gas cloud. Big particle effect thing that is rampant throughout this movie. It's the only effect this movie does, and it really kind of drove me crazy. That, like, the Phoenix Force only has one particle effect, and it's that just dusty...
Microscopic dead skin flaking off.
Yeah, that's what the Phoenix Force looks like by itself. That's when it inhabits Jean Grey. That's what it does all around everybody. Yeah, even the Nightcrawler effect, when he bamps out, has that same kind of effect.
I like the Nightcrawler effect in this.
Okay.
All right. All right. Oh.
I don't hate it. I'm just saying it's like, it all is kind of samey.
When X2 happened, that Nightcrawler effect pulled me right in.
Oh, yeah. That was a great opening scene.
Oh, man.
I think that's probably, next to Days of Future Past, that was the best opening scene in an X-Men movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, without question.
Without question. Why are we even questioning it?
Better than the Holocaust opening scene of X-Men 1?
Oh, that's a good opening scene. I would say there's 3 great opening scenes.
All right. Better than Limo Driver Wolverine?
I would say maybe there's... I would even say X-Men Origins, that trip through time.
Oh,
That's 5 great opening scenes.
Better than the Danger Room opening scene in X-Men 3?
I would say every X-Men movie starts out great, and then immediately bumps the brakes on a lot of them.
Yes. All right, I'm with you on that.
I'm glad we finally got through that. After she gets the Phoenix Force inhabited inside of her body...
It never takes the form of the Phoenix until, like, the very end. Why?
I don't know, Dave.
We know it's the Phoenix. It's in the title.
Yes. And spoilers are aplenty in this.
Because no one cares.
Nobody cares. There's characters in this that do absolutely... Jessica Chastain in this is wasted.
Yeah. Why they decided to, like... Maybe it is a race in the comics. I'm not familiar with them.
They don't say the race, do they?
I don't think so.
They don't even show the alien race.
She's called, like, Vuk or Vok.
The aliens that they kind of show cast in very heavy shadow for a minute before they replace them all with actors.
They just look like Groot.
They look... I thought the aliens from Signs, if they were hit with, like, no lights.
Yes. Yeah. Why did they not make them the Shar?
I have no idea. What, did they think the hairstyle was too hard to do a big stiff wig? I have no idea.
That was so bizarre. I kept wondering, like, when is the other shoe gonna drop on these guys? It never does. They're just like a bunch of faceless alien people.
Yeah. And at first, I almost thought they were Skrulls because they can shapeshift. And I'm like, I guess 20th Century Fox would technically own them if they own Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But
they're
they're
just going
not.
all out. They're like,
They
you know
really-
what? We're gonna ruin the Skrulls too.
Why not? It's our last one.
Yeah.
Let's go out with a big, heavy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they did anyway.
Yeah.
I would say about the 25% mark is where this really goes off the rails.
Yeah.
And it becomes the generic X-Men movie
Right.
in the lower half
Yeah.
of the spectrum.
Right.
Where Jean gets that red coat,
Yeah,
as the
of
Phoenix
course.
has to have.
Right.
They have a little tiff in the suburbs.
Uh-huh.
They go out in the woods
Yep.
and find Magneto has like a nomadic group out there.
Yep.
There's some weird made-up mutant in X3. It's the guy that shoots his bone spurs. In this, it's this weird dreadlocked guy that whips his hair around.
Why aren't there other good mutants?
I know!
Magneto has the worst gang of mutants ever.
It's like they've never read the Phoenix Saga, and they've only watched X-Men 3, and they're like, we gotta get that purple-haired girl in here.
Right.
You know, her fans are gonna be clamoring.
At the same time, all of this stuff is happening. My expectations were so low going in because I've heard that it was just total crap.
Uh-huh.
That I was like, this is fine.
Yeah.
It's no worse than any of the other ones. And
No.
so like I came out kind of like okay. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's done.
We're done.
I'm gonna go home and record this.
We're past it. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about it twice and then never bring it up again.
Yeah.
And then I finally closed the casket
Yep.
on the Foxmen.
Yes.
Speaking of that, I've been reading a ton of old X-Men comics. I read like all the Chris Claremont, Dark Phoenix stuff.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I've
really
heard.
enjoyable. There are things in it, like she does go to the suburbs and confront her parents, and I never knew that. So I'm like, okay, they obviously they felt this was an important element of the X-Men canon that they have to represent.
Right.
Ignoring the fact that like the Shi'ar teleport them into space and they have a big battle royale.
Yeah.
Like that's not important.
Right.
Get them to the suburbs.
Right. Get him to the burbs, man.
Yeah.
I didn't think that the rest of the X-Men had a lot to do, and it was kind of unfortunate that some of them that were on their way out just seemed like they didn't care.
Yes. Yes.
But at the same time, I was happy to see him just get out of there.
Yeah.
Like,
Just go. Just get
why did Mystique end up being such a popular character?
Because Jennifer Lawrence became popular.
That's the only thing
It
I can
totally
think
is.
of. But, like, there's
her career took off, and like this was her franchise.
Oh, my God.
So they built it around her.
It's terrible.
Yes.
Like, you could tell just as, like, I don't give a shit in this movie. I'm not going to put on the makeup
No.
more than once.
I love the fact that her and Nicholas Hoult
Yeah.
in this both the blue, like furry, crazy looking characters in X-Men. And X-Men is the representation of like outcasts and minorities,
Right.
and people that are different.
Uh-huh.
So, and it's being played by two beautiful, famous, rich actors who don't want to go through the makeup anymore.
Yeah. I love that Beast is like a tragic character that tries to like reverse his like transformation, only gets worse. But in this, he's just like the Hulk. He can change
Flips
it
it on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? Jennifer Lawrence is just her
Yep.
in an X-blazer.
With less scales as the movies go on.
It's like, come on. I was glad to see her get out of there.
Me
though.
too. I was like, good for her.
You found your way out.
Yeah. I was hoping more of them got killed.
Me too. It would have made it like a more climactic movie. It's like, oh shit, they're just offing people now.
Just go full on ultimatum. Magneto just snaps Professor X's head.
I would love that.
Nightcrawler becomes a killing machine.
You know, so this movie is just kind of cruises along. It doesn't really do anything that's so offensive, and it's like, ugh, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything great that I'm just like, yes. But then the whole, just knowing that this movie went into reef shoots,
Yeah.
and they changed the whole space battle to a train battle.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, let's see this train thing coming at the end.
When Magneto pulls the train out of the ground, I'm like, is that the train?
I hope it is. No.
It's not. We get another train.
Yeah. But then
Buckle up.
The train scene ended up being, I think, like an action set piece the movie kind of needed for the end. And I didn't end up hating it, because there's some parts that I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. even though it turned the X-Men into just cold-blooded killers.
While also being the most knock-outable characters. Any time that a character is too powerful, they just get, like, knocked out.
Yeah.
And the camera makes special mention to, like, show, like, oh yeah, their eyes are closed.
They are out.
They're out. Out of the game. Quicksilver, he's
Done.
out.
Yeah.
He sprained his ankle. He's done.
He's out of here.
You don't see him. You don't see him anymore. Good for him. He got out, too.
But at the end, when they have, like, that showdown with all, like, the bullshit aliens, and then the rest of
I think that's a race.
the X-Men,
Yeah.
like, they sick Beast on him, of all people. I'm like, what the fuck is he gonna
What is
do?
Beast gonna do? Hang upside down by his opposable toe thumbs?
It's like, why didn't you just have Storm summon down just a freezing cloud and then shock everyone to death?
Yes. I also love that, like, they give them such weird things to do to show their powers. Where, like, they walk up to Storm and she's essentially an ice machine because they don't have Iceman in this. Like, she does more than make ice cubes. I don't even think she can do ice cubes.
I don't think she can do that either.
Does she have to make ice for everybody? Why not just get the ice?
She's not that special little thing on your fridge where you can get ice anytime you want.
They're saying that there was a conscious effort made when the X-Men were all buying drinks and supplies for this party. They saw like $1.50 bag of ice, and we're like, nah, we'll make Storm do it.
Which is
She's
kind
not
of
gonna be
offensive if you
partying.
think about it.
She might not be like finding romance or something. She'll just be on hand to make us ice.
Ugh.
Oh.
But, yeah, so anyway, the train scene I thought was like a spice of action that actually needed. And I'm like, okay, if this is a reshoot, then I'm like, this kind of works for me. I don't know what they would have done otherwise, but I ended up like, there's a few cool things in there. So the aliens can't be taken on by gunfire, and all the guards...
Until they get a lot of gunfire.
Until they get a lot of gunfire. But even then, like, Magneto, like, they get into an ammunition car.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, turns all the guns onto Jessica Chastain, and they're just blowing her up, but she's still coming forward and reforming. I'm like, that's kind of a cool scene.
Yeah.
I also like that he crushes the entire alien
I
race
like
in
that
one
too.
car.
Yes.
And he's like, fuck you, get out of here.
It's again where, like, the X-Men are so powerful and have such varying degrees of power where, like, right off the bat, they could have ended this immediately.
Yes, I always thought that. I guess he can't read the aliens' minds. Because I thought, like, he can just freeze an entire room of people.
Yes.
And then Quicksilver could have came in and just poked his finger through everyone's head and killed them all. Nightcrawler goes, like, on a murderous rampage for no reason, but he does, like, teleport somebody in front of a train, which I appreciated.
Oh, that was pretty good. Yeah. I did like the fact, as you said, that Professor X, it kind of brings up this, this question of, should Professor X have been controlling Phoenix?
Yes.
Through this whole thing.
Yeah.
And it feels like the message of the movie is, it's a very feminist movie.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Even where Mystique has a call out where she says, like, why... It seems like the women are always saving the men. Why isn't it called the X-Women?
Yeah.
And, like, that's all fine.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, gotcha,
Got it.
Xavier, you dummy.
Yup.
Yeah.
But in this case, I feel like Xavier was probably right.
Okay. Go on.
But, like, what happens? She goes completely nuts.
Yeah.
Like, she had some issues, and he was doing what he thought was best to kind of, like, try to give her a normal life and help her.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't the best choice, but he learns from that at the end. And she also becomes a crazy, murderous person.
Right.
Well, not really that murderous either. She accidentally kills one person, where Magneto has killed hundreds of people, and he's fine. He gets a pass.
I know. I always think of that every single time. I'm like, you murder a lot of people, and then Charles is just like, oh, Eric, you scamp.
I'll get you in chess this time.
But yeah, I really like they played with Professor X's ambiguity in this, especially near the beginning, where he comes off as like, I finally got the mutant race to be accepted by the populace.
Yeah.
Is it so hard to be just to do a public appearance in a costume? That's a small price to pay for terrible oppression.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not really wrong. He's kind of going about it in a shitty way, and I like the ambiguity that they're playing with here. And then to the further the fact that he's like, yeah, I repressed something in her mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, should you have done that though? But then is it protecting her because the father didn't want her anyway because she's a mutant? And he's like, that's full on played out in the movie. I'm like, is that so bad? To, like, make her not remember that?
Uh-huh.
Because then she goes and remembers it, and it's horrible?
Yeah.
So it's like, I like that he walked that line. I thought that was a really smart thing in the movie.
Yeah, I felt like in a better movie, that would have come off much better.
Yes, yeah, of course.
It's like that's an interesting point to bring up, and I wish it was in a better movie, that we could examine it more, like, fleshed out.
Too bad.
Oh,
he came off more like a Niles Calder in this.
He totally did. Yes.
Where he's like, I'm doing it for the best of the team.
Yep.
Also, I'm kind of secretly a dick.
Yes.
I like it.
Step on this big X. Nothing will happen. Overall, the X-Men movies are done.
Yeah.
Until we get some
Until
more,
we get
like,
more X-Men
yes.
movies. Yeah.
Until we get more under the Marvel banner.
Yep.
But, yeah, this kind of closes the door on it, and it seems like no one cares anymore, other than to chime in and rip on it.
Yeah. Like, we did a lot of ripping on this, and some things I think are warranted. But, going in, my expectations were so low. But I came out...
Expectations?
My expectations were so low. I came out thinking, like, that wasn't any worse than Apocalypse that happened right before this. In fact, I might have liked this more than Apocalypse.
Yeah. There's no Wolverine in this one.
That's
Is this
okay.
the only one without Wolverine?
Yeah.
I really felt it. I felt like it was like around the, maybe hour and a half mark, and I was like, I could go for Wolverine.
I read that a Wolverine scene was originally in the, original draft, but because, like, he's so old and she's so young, they cut it out because they thought it'd be a little weird. You know what's also weird, too? Like, the Weekly Planet bring this up all the time, is that the only X-Men movie you need to see when the new one comes out is the last one.
Yeah.
But even if you think about that, it was Apocalypse, right?
Yeah, you don't need this one.
And then,
because she has the Phoenix Force at the
very
end of that.
end, and I'm like, that's troublesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Plot-wise.
I thought that same thing. Like, that doesn't work.
No. But, oh well.
Oh well. Oh, X-Men.
The X-Men go out with a whimper.
We've said it before, like, as convoluted and crazy and all over the place as the X-Men comics are, the movies are actually a pretty good representation of, like, the timeline of the X-Men comics.
Yeah.
They are all over the place and indecipherable if you're just jumping in the middle.
For sure. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the X-Men. I like actually going into a movie because they're going to distill, like, a ton of storylines into one, but then they always try to do too much.
Yeah, that's why I like the animated series and the Ultimate X-Men from Marvel, because like it was taking a lot of ideas and just like, how do we do this?
I know.
how do we just distill this into like the main essentials?
Yeah. Cut out the clutter. So
much so that like when I went back and read a lot of these original ones, I kind of preferred like the animated series takes to this, like Days of Future Past. I like the animated series version of Days of Future Past much more than the comic. But, yeah, that's another episode.
Yeah, boy is it. But let's jump into something maybe a little bit better.
We're going to do a quick follow-up on our Grand Design episode, where we're going to touch on the second installment. Let me get them out of here. Reduce that glare.
That's right.
That's right. Old Ed Piskor is...
back again.
That's right. We're not used to the studio and these lights, this hot box that we're in. Second Genesis. Grand Design Second Genesis.
Yes.
And I believe the third installment of this just started too, which is the Extinction.
Yes.
Yes. I read the first issue of that.
How was it?
Pretty good.
Great.
All right. So maybe eventually we'll cover all of them on the show. We'll see if anything else X-related comes out that we can piggyback on. But what'd you think of this? This is the condensing of... basically the Dark Phoenix saga, way into the Brood.
Yep.
There's a lot of Brood.
Yeah. It touches on a lot of the Claremont era stuff.
Yep.
The Phoenix saga does a little bit of the Morlocks, does some Rogue stuff, does Brood stuff.
Yep.
Does a whole lot of that. My main takeaway from this, if I could summarize it right off the top,
go for it,
is that it's still very informational.
Yep.
And it's not really story-based driven. So maybe if you're not like a huge X-Men fan such as myself, this will like come off as like a great like Wikipedia of all the X-Men events to distill it into something if you need to get up to speed. But otherwise, if you're up to date and like have all read this stuff, I don't think this is necessarily for you as maybe just more of like a shelf piece. Like, this is distills it to like 1 or 2 books. Here you go.
Yeah. I think it does a great job of trying to clean up the X-Men history for people like ourselves. That, like, we know enough about it, but it's kind of interesting to see, like, how does it all play? If I want to jump into X-Men right now, what would I need to know from the beginning to get me where it's at currently? Yeah. Which I like. There are some strange inconsistencies with this, because I'm like currently reading a lot of the original stuff in this.
Right around this time?
Yeah, he takes some strange liberties where I'm like, that's not how it happened.
Okay. How so?
So, for example, in this, Cyclops meets Madeline Pryor, who eventually becomes, I think, the Goblin Queen. And she's like this straight-up facsimile of Jean Grey. And he meets her when he takes a brief hiatus from the X-Men, and he becomes a dock boy. Works on a shipping vessel.
One would.
Yep. In the original version, it's not Madeline Pryor there. He doesn't meet her there. It's a different girl that is the sea captain. So he just kind of like meshes these two characters together.
I could see if it was trying to narrow its focus to get to like through however many years of continuity. It's like, does she really make a lot of difference overall?
Apparently not.
We just cut her out. Everyone remembers it just being Madeline Pryor, and we're going to push forward. I kind of like that a little bit. But what I do like in the back of this is the back matter, where he takes all of his references from, which I almost wish that every book did this for no reason. But like, I love it's like, hey, in this panel we pulled from this idea or whatever. Go check out freaking X-Men number 600 or whatever it is.
You know what's weird? In the collected editions, they don't have that. They leave them out.
I think I remember you telling me that.
That's bullshit. That's like one of my favorite parts of this.
Yeah.
And these collected editions are like $30. Like, just add in like 6 more pages. It's not that much.
It's so hot.
It's so hot. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head where these are fun, like for nostalgia purposes, and for like informational, but it totally feels like a wiki article with pictures. Yeah. Like, I enjoy them to an extent where I don't think I would ever give it to someone and say like, hey, you gotta read this.
I wouldn't either. Like, maybe I would give it to somebody to like, do you want to know about the X-Men really quick? Yeah. Here you go.
I think he said he kind of planned so that every page could kind of be like its own thing. Okay. So that was how I was kind of trying to read these, where, like, you know, like picture it like a Sunday Comics thing, and each page is one of those. Sure. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more like that. Like, that was how it was broken up. But, yeah, it's a lot of information without really telling any story. It's just, here's this. This happened, and then this happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I still don't hate it, though. Like, I think it's like a fun little thing, and it's all him. It's all written by him. It's drawn by him. It's like his magnum opus for now. Yes. Until he does something else completely insane where he tries to distill 70 years of continuity into, like, 60 pages.
What did Piskor do before Hip Hop Family Tree?
I don't know.
Because, he's a name. He's a comic name, but I don't know what he did before that. Maybe that was how he got his claim to fame.
I know the Hip Hop Family Tree went off, like, awesomely. Yeah. Like, with everyone. Like, the hip hop community, comics community. And it was, like, celebrated this huge thing. And he's like, crazy. I'm going to do the X-Men next. And everyone's like, yes, great.
You're fucking crazy.
You're an
Have you read the X-Men?
Son of a bitch. It's going to kill you.
Have you seen X3?
But, yeah, I applaud his efforts for this. But at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, I'd like to see him do Fantastic Four.
Oh my god, I would love for him to do Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about, like, distilling it down to the basics where it's not, like, the most entertaining thing, but I guess I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, same. It's a weird balance to strike.
Yes. Or as I'm reading it, I'm kind of bored, but I want to just kind of keep going and, like, knock it all out so I'm up to speed.
So, like, I was exactly the same. I was reading through this because I was getting excited. You let me borrow. I'm like, oh yeah, I like the last ones, and I was reading through this, and I'm like, but did I like the last ones? Yeah. I'm getting through this, like, I'm kind of like breezing through it. Like, oh yeah, I kind of get this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was our little dive back into the X-Men.
Maybe someday we'll do an X-Men episode on an X-Men title that we enjoy.
We'll see, won't we?
Yes.
Have we done New X-Men as an episode?
Yeah, we did.
Our first season?
Second. Oh, man. Are you excited for Hickman on X-Men?
I am very curious about Hicksman.
Hicksmen and Hicksmen.
Hicksmen on the X-Men.
Hashtag Hicksmen. H-I-X-Men.
Of course.
Yep.
I
Now we have to.
I'm not an X-Men fan, but I am a huge fan of Hickman.
Same
so
here. I feel
I'll
like
dive in.
This could be like his Avengers
Mhm.
for X-Men.
I'll give it a shot.
That would be great.
Oh boy. But tell us what you think of the X-Men Dark Phoenix movie. Tell us what you think of Ed Piskor's work on Dark
Grand design?
Dark why did I say that again? Tell us what you think of Second Genesis.
That's right. And the X-Men franchise as a whole.
Yeah.
The movies, the comics,
Yeah.
what are you into?
Start a conversation down below. We'll chime in.
That's right. I feel like the movies get so much bad rap when it's really like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Before this, I said like it was more good than bad. I feel like we've reached that medium now where the balance has shifted and it's evened out.
Yep.
But there's some good stuff here.
There
This was
is.
at an early age of comic book movies. X-Men was predating Spider-Man.
Yep.
I would say it was really kind of at the forefront of ushering in the modern comic book movie.
Agreed.
Right after Blade, which, as we know, is still the best comic book movie of all time.
It's undisputed.
Yeah.
But let us know down below all your thoughts on the X-Men. And until next time, I have been Short of the Max Extreme.
And I've been Ghost Hunter Dave.
And we have been Imperius Rex. We will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.